feel like personally, when you're 1-0 down against a team like City, you just hang in there until as long as possible. And then you bring on those sort of attacking flair players that are available to you to try and nick one back. But I don't see them scoring at the minute. Apart from Gineppo, when he comes on, that can cause a lot of problems to any defenders. I think they won't score enough goals to stay up because they're always going to concede, I feel like.
Agree with that, Glenn? Do you think you give them a chance at all?
Yeah, listen, I think it's hard to judge them on this evening against Manchester City because Manchester City are the best out there, or one of the best out there. Last weekend against West Ham, when you should be scoring goals, when you should be creating more opportunities, that was more of a worry than this evening for me. When you look at the fixtures, Manchester City at home was a possibility. It was a long shot, but you would like to get something out, and you approach the game like you're going to get something out of it. But realistically, that's not one you have down to gain any points from.
Do the games against Bayern Munich and, of course, the FA Cup semi-final at Wembley against Sheffield United go against City, or is it just about winning matches and they can use that momentum in the Premier League?
I think it will come down more to momentum. I think the game's coming quick and fast. We never know whether they're going to win all of them. We would hope they do, but we never know. But I feel like the fact that they can win this one, now they're going into the Bayern Munich game with confidence. Haaland's going into the back of that game with scoring 2 goals. Kevin's going in there with reaching the limits he's reaching with an assist. Jack's going in on fire. So it can put it in a better position for City, but we know when there's that many games, at some point there will be some team rotation, and we don't know when that's going to happen.
So this is what match week 30 looks like. They're nearly complete, but Manchester City getting the job done. Manchester City victorious on the South Coast. 100 Premier League assists for Kevin De Bruyne, setting up the first for Erling Haaland. There's an assist from Jack Grealish in form. A beautiful finish from the Norwegian. 4-1 it finished against Southampton. Big hugs and big smiles in that City camp at the end. And they are charging towards Arsenal. They still play them on the 26th of April. 5 points is the difference. And we can speak to Manchester City star midfielder Kevin De Bruyne. And now he joins us live. Kevin, thanks so much for speaking to us. We've got another City legend, Sean Wright-Phillips, in the studio with us, and Glenn Murray's here as well. Look, you guys know you've pretty much got to win every game. How important was that 3 points down there?
Good evening. I think it's always important. I think the first half an hour was tough. I think the last 15 minutes of first half we started to create more chances, and it was good that we scored that goal, and I think the second half we played really well. I think we created enough chances, we put them under pressure. The goal against was a little bit soft on our side, but I think in the end we deserved to win and we did our job.
Kevin, it's Sean here. Congratulations on the 100 assists.
Thank you.
What did Pep say at half-time? Because I feel like in the second half, you was in better spaces. You was getting the ball with more time to do your thing, basically.
He didn't say too much. He just explained a little bit more the shape of Southampton. It was a little bit different than expected. I think it was basically like a 4-3-3, but like side shape. So the right side was free up front, and then the middle was on the left. So it's really, really difficult to see the spaces. But I think we had to go a little bit quicker forward, because then they didn't have the time to set up the pressure with their fullbacks or defenders pressing us in the midfield. And once we can turn around and play 5 against 4, it's going to be tough for them.
Hey Kevin, congratulations on 100 assists, like Sean just said. I was just wondering, obviously Giggs is on 162, Fabregas is second on 111. I think it's pretty inevitable you're gonna go second at some point in the near future, but can you catch Giggs at the top?
Well, that's a lot, I've been here for 8 years. I don't know. It depends how long I stay, how long I'm in good shape, and how long we do really well. I try to create as much as possible, and if my teammates score, then it helps me. It's a combination of both. So I try to do as much as possible, and I need my teammates to put it in the back of the net.
Kevin, just finally, look, it's such an exciting finish to the season. You guys have got a massive game on Tuesday night against Bayern Munich, and then of course you go away to Germany. You've got that FA Cup semi-final against Sheffield United, and in the run-in in the Premier League, obviously we're all looking at that match on the 26th against Arsenal. But when you go into that Manchester City dressing room and you look at your teammates and you look in their eyes, how much belief is in that City camp that you can do it?
Well, we know we are behind, but we can only control what we can control, and we know we got a lot of games to play and a lot of important competitions. But if you are in the beginning of the season, this is what you want, and tough periods are ahead, and every game is a must-win. But we've been in this situation before, and we have to focus ourselves on choosing as Bayern, and that's the only thing we can really do. So, but the belief is there.
Kevin, top man, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. Safe journey back to Manchester.
Thank you. Good evening.
There we go. Kevin De Bruyne speaking to us live on Matchday Live. I mean, look, Sean, he's timeless in this Manchester City team, isn't he? He just keeps coming up with assists.
Yeah, and I think me and Glenn spoke about it off air when we was just watching the game, and Glenn hit the nail on the head when he said he just risks the ball. Not all the time, but just seems to be at the right times, and more times than none, he gives the attacker or the midfielder an opportunity to score a goal or to maybe grab an assist. And I think if you have a player like that and you have a striker like Haaland up front, I think that the combination will work perfectly. And we forget they're only in their first year together. I can't wait to see what they're like when they actually get on and they have spent enough time together to know, right, bang, this is exactly how I want it. Because Kevin's the man that can deliver that.
Yeah, and look, City are so effective when that combination works between Kevin De Bruyne and Haaland. Do you expect to kind of see it more with those two so talented? And is it a case of, like Sean says, that you give it another season and it becomes almost telepathic?
Yeah, well, I think it's sort of reaching that now already, isn't it? I mean, Kevin De Bruyne can be telepathic with whoever he wants to be, but Haaland's just his perfect foil, always making that direct forward run, always in between the sticks, so he knows when he's got to put the ball in the box. I mean, they just complement each other so well, and yeah, I can only see it getting better. And when it's working, why not keep pressing that button?
Yeah, let's rewind then to 1-0 and Erling Haaland's first goal. It was obviously KDB's 100th assist in the Premier League, as we just talked to him about there. Initially, the ball in from Kevin De Bruyne, but it comes out to him here. Good vision from Grealish to find him. Yeah,
but Jack holds on to it just enough to said Haaland. He's run. If you see his movement, the way as soon as Kevin gets the ball, he just peels off. He knows it's coming. And then from that, it's a goal, pretty much then. And it's a great header from the man. He couldn't do anything else. He headers it straight. I think Bazuma got caught in two minds because he came out and then he stopped. And from he does that, I think he's in no man's land, really.
Yeah, and just fast forwarding to Erling Haaland's second goal of the evening at Southampton. And actually, Glenn, 27 games to get to 30 Premier League goals is the quickest now, because the previous was Andy Cole, who took 32 matches. He's setting records left, right and centre, this guy. Yeah,
and I only expect him to keep breaking them. But this is all started by Kevin De Bruyne again, onto the informed Jack Grealish, and then we just see him peel away. He always likes to see the goal and the ball and have everything in his vision. But then to be able to do this, for such a big man to have the athleticism to get up and hit that with his left foot back across, hit the target. I mean, he's special. That is the only words I've got for him. Just when it comes to the 18-yard box and 6-yard box, he's killer. Yeah, go on then. As a former striker, what impresses you the most when you watch him? Because it has to be said that there are times when he probably deliberately doesn't get involved too much in the play. My biggest thing for him is hunger. I mean, when you've scored 30 goals, it can almost become boring. Do you know what I mean? He's proved everyone wrong, and he's breaking records, like you say, but his hunger and his age just wants to keep scoring goals. Like, we've seen Wayne Rooney burst onto the scene when he was a young lad, and he was an out-and-out goal scorer, but he changed the way he played. I just feel as though Haaland loves scoring goals, and he's going to do it for a long time to come.
It's almost a dream, isn't it, Sean, for Pep? Because he had 12 touches today and he scores 2 goals. He scored more than that. I think he scored hat-tricks with fewer touches this season, but not getting involved too much, not getting involved in tackles and challenges that he doesn't need to, and winning games for City.
Yeah, but if you heard one of his previous interviews, Haaland himself, he said he'll be happy in a 90-minute game to touch the ball 5 times and score 5 goals. Now, that's just telling you, as a team player, just give me the ball in the box. He just wants to score goals. And I think for a team like City to have that part of the puzzle in that Arsenal as well, I think it's fabulous. Because the years before, I would say after Sane until now, they kind of lost that direct way out. And I think now Haaland's brought that back, whereas they can play and keep the ball as long as they want. But as soon as you come towards us, Haaland goes the other way, and then they have that pass. So a lot of teams, I feel like, get stuck in two minds. They don't know whether to press or to sit deep. So now, for me, City have the best of both worlds, and they're punishing teams, as we saw the game without Haaland. where they punished the team, and now we've just seen a game with Haaland, and they've done the same thing, but in a different manner, in a different way.
I just want to pick up on the point you made there of him. What was it? He has 5 touches, scores 2 goals or 3 goals. That is a proper striker's mentality. It's like, guys, you bake the cake and I'll just stick the cherry on top at the end. That is it.
He said it himself, though, Glenn.
Yeah.
He says, I don't really want to touch the ball much.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
But that is one area I think he could improve as he gets older. The ball's up to him. He just being a little bit cleaner and tidy with his link-up play. But when you score goals like that, how can you criticise somebody?
Yeah, it's a warning sign, isn't it, to Arsenal, because Manchester City are putting a run together. 8 wins on the spin in all competition. Let's hear from the City boss, Pep Guardiola.
Well, Pep, you said before the game Southampton are always tough, and they were for a bit. How, in the end, did you figure it out?
It was the first half. They were incredible, well organised. So they played really, really well. We started with good 2 actions. We're a little bit sloppy. We didn't find the third man properly. We were fortunate to score on the edge of the first half, and in the beginning the second, and after was much better. Second half much better because they have to jump more, but they keep fighting, and it was a good opening for us.
Were you just a bit frustrated with the build up from the back early in the game, or just watching you sort of speak to your centre halves? Maybe, I don't know, it was a bit slow.
Yeah, a little bit, but they did really well. As a team, they organized, they allowed us to play on our right side, and it was not easy. It was not easy. Sometimes it's to give credit to the opponent, not just for if we were sloppy or maybe would not. I give credit when the opponents do the good things. I have to respect them. So, and sometimes it happened. We were like a little bit of the aggressivity, so the duels we were a little bit comfortable, and the second half we increased on that too.
So the first goal comes from Kevin De Bruyne's 100th Premier League assist, fastest player to get there. Go on.
When Kevin is playing that level, so the amount of and how many assets has done that is not already counting because we could not score. So. Yeah, it was involved in the penalty and the assists and many things.
I know it feels like we ask you this question a lot, but you've been right at the top of the game for your whole career, player and a manager. In terms of vision and execution, where is he, Kevin? How good?
No, he's exceptional. So when he's always is committed. He's a guy who likes to play football, but he needs the rhythm. He has to play. There are players that need to play a 40%, 50%. He's a guy who needs to play every action, make a high level, high intensity, 80-90%. He's not comfortable to play with a post. He needs to, to make this speed. And after, I had the feeling when he's so difficult to find. When one player has this 80-90% intensity, has the ability to see the passes more than who is more calm or more 30-40% or more walking. Normally, the normal players, when you walk, you see everything. But when you run at a high speed, you are not able to see what happened. He's completely opposite. That's why he's an exceptional player.
And talking of exceptional players, Erling Haaland, 30 Premier League goals now, 44, with like a quarter of the season still to go.
Yeah, so I think our bosses bought him for this type of games. Like it's uncomfortable, like we are not playing our best level, the opponent is really good. He breaks, so with a good assist of course, but the goal, and after the second goal is always, you cannot imagine with this 1.90 m, I don't know, had ability.
It makes them look so easy, doesn't it? Maybe because he's massive.
It looks easy, it's so flexible, so yeah, it was exceptional goal.
It's interesting, Pep Guardiola, because he's still calling out more from his players, isn't he? Even more from Erling Haaland, and saying, talking in percentages, that there's still more to come in bigger games that the season will bring.
Yeah, and listen, I think ultimately that's why he brought him to the football club. It's not for the Premier League, because they've proved over and over again they can win that. It's for the one that's missing. It's for the Champions League, and people like Haaland. He's the one that can change a game. Like we watched that game there, and they were good, but they couldn't quite break Southampton down. It just took a second, and he's there just before half time, changes the whole complex of the game, and that's what he's looking for him to do against your Bayerns and the later stages.
And is
of
that the perfect
League.
prep for Tuesday for Bayern? for Haaland? You know, 'cause you were talking about that ring rust, weren't you, before?
I think Sean made a good point. I mean, it wasn't a warm-up, but you don't want to go into Bayern after being out for 3 weeks and not playing much football, so it's much better that he's been on there for 60 minutes, scored 2 goals, he feels confident, he feels fresh, he feels sharp, and he'll be gunning for Bayern.
Yeah. Jack Grealish, we've got to talk about Jack Grealish's goal and obviously just his goal involvement since the World Cup, because his numbers are absolutely incredible, Sean. He's a different player post that tournament in Qatar, isn't he?
Yeah, I just think he's come from a place where he had a lot to learn in terms of football and the way that Pep wanted it played, and I think he's taken it all on board and it's all coming out now. And here is what we were saying in the first half, which the Southampton Salamari should have did, and he didn't do. Jack takes the shot on and it comes straight back at him, but he's moving here, he just hangs out, he lets him go inside, and Kevin's pass there, and he just one touch, bang, and it comes back and then outside of his boot, sorry. But in general, his all-round play today for me, and since he's been back from the World Cup, has been fantastic. I think you can see now his all-round game. I think when he was at Villa, we gave Jack the ball and we just wanted to see Jack just dribble past everyone, whereas now I feel like he can do literally everything. And the most impressive part for me is that the amount of tracking back he's done this season, that how fit he looks, and the last-ditch challenges I've seen him put in. He's been phenomenal.
Glenn, do you think almost Pep Guardiola's kind of forced that to work? Because a lot of City fans would have said at the beginning of the season they would have preferred Phil Foden, and I know he's had his injuries and so on, and certainly after the World Cup. But, you know, he's given him a lot of opportunities, Jack Grealish, and he's always had this £100 million price tag lurking over his head, and he is, it's cliched now, but living up to that, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was forced. I would say that he come from Aston Villa, where he did completely as he wished. He was the maverick of the football team. He was the Roy of the Rovers, who they gave the ball to, and he could track back when he wanted, he could shoot when he wanted, and no one would question him at the football club because he was the ultimate £100 million football player. But he walks into City's dressing room and you're one of another all of a sudden. So he had to get used to this structure, this sort of staying on the left and working from patterns of play that Pep gives him. And all of a sudden his play was restricted to a certain extent, but now he's learning how to flourish inside those restrictions and work with better players around him. Yeah, so
Erling Haaland, of course, put Manchester City 3-0 up, as we saw, but Sekou Mara made it 3-1 with 18 minutes to play, and it wasn't done and dusted for the team that are going for the title at that point, was it?
No, it was a bit nervy at the time, but this is a player me and Glenn was talking about before, Djenepo. You never know what he's going to do, and the way he gets a little bit lucky, but he stays on his feet when he could have gone down, and he gets that reward as an assist, and it's a great finish again from Moura. And then you're thinking, all right, they're a little bit of way back into it, but I think in general, like, this is the sort of player Southampton needed, especially if they were going to be sitting back, because he's a player you can get it to, and he tries to make things happen off the cuff.
And then look, just 3 minutes later, KWP on KDB. I mean, what was Kyle Walker-Peters thinking here, Glenn?
Well, I would like to ask him, actually, because I'm not sure. It's such a stupid challenge, for a want of a better word. I mean, it's so late, and it's an obvious penalty, should I say. But yeah, it just seems a bit of a lapse of concentration, and then from this point on that Alvarez was never going to miss, and the game's put to bed there. As soon as you open that door for a little glimmer of opportunity to get back into the game, even though it was a massive uphill task, to give something away so softly will be a massive disappointment from Sellers and his men.
Yeah, are you surprised Alvarez took it, Sean, with KDB on there? I mean, he's so unselfish, De Bruyne, isn't he? When you think back in the day, he would have put that on the spot. But Alvarez needs the goals with Haaland starting games.
I don't think Alvarez needs a goal. I think he's scored enough for a sub that... Well, I shouldn't even say it, but for a guy that would most probably start in a lot of Premier League teams, he's obviously behind somebody that's phenomenal at scoring goals. So
not bad to have a World Cup winner to come off the bench and tuck away a penalty, is it, for Pep?
I wouldn't mind it if I was manager.
All right, let's focus on Southampton for a little bit now, because it's another defeat for them. It leaves them 4 points from safety. Here's their manager, Ruben Sayers.
Well, Ruben obviously ends up being really disappointing for you, but do you have the feeling that for 44 minutes that was a really decent performance?
Yeah, I would say a little bit more. It was until the second goal when we dropped a little bit our level. But as I told you before, we have a plan. We knew what we want to do. We knew that we want to be good in possession. We want to try to lure them and play through the lines. I think we have, especially with the Kamaldeen chance, the opportunity to go 1-0, what is a big chance. We missed that, and we know when they have players that can make the difference. And when that goal in the last minute of the first half, it just changed a little bit our mindset, and we try to stay in the game as much as possible. I'm very proud of a big part of the game that my boys put today.
Just tell us about that game plan and how effective you felt it was until, like you say, probably the second goal.
Yeah, we want to keep them in their own half. We want to use our triggers because we knew they will build up with three centre backs, and then we try to trap them in one of the sides, and then to make it difficult for them to arrive in our own half. So they end up, of course, basically some individual actions. Rodri dropping a little bit, and the only escape that they have was to play the long ball for release into the space, where I think we control very well. Also, we play with their pressure, trying to play through the lines, especially when they went and apply pressure with the wingers, and we knew that we can play in and out and then break the line there. So we try to do our thing, and I think it worked for a big part of the game.
Is the first goal, especially coming when it comes, when you're so close to getting in at half-time with a good first half's work, is that the key moment of the match?
Well, it's some key moments of the match, but I think we also went to the second half with the belief that we can do, because we set up good standards in the first half. So I think it was the second goal, like it let us a little bit down, and then everything happened so quick after, and then we equalize. We have two players out with Armel and Ainsley, and then the penalty comes. So it was a little bit strange in that moment.
Seeing your team play as they did this evening, does it give you more or less belief about staying in the Premier League?
Well, I say that they are working well. They are working well, and then we are trying to find those connections. We show the identity, we show in big parts of the games, but we show also that we need to continue working to get those last bits of the game, because if we put the game 1-0 for us, we will stay in the game until the very end, and it didn't happen. And we just need to be sure in the end that we keep the boys believing, and then keep working hard, and we need to learn from the game, and tomorrow will be another day, and we will be ready for the Palace game.
So there we go, back-to-back defeats for that man, Ruben Sayers, after the game that Glenn was talking about that he was at last Sunday, a defeat at West Ham. And this is what is to come for Southampton, who are rock bottom. They still play Bournemouth, Forest and Palace in terms of the teams around them, and tough games against, of course, they played City today, but Arsenal, Newcastle, Brighton and Liverpool, Glenn.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I think their season pretty much boils down to their next two home games. They need 6 points from Bournemouth and Palace, for me, if they want to stay in the Premier League. And I think they've been very plucky. There's been many times this season where they could have been cut adrift and given up. They've had manager after manager, and they're still in with a fighting chance. But those two next home games are critical for Southampton's staying in the Premier League.
Yeah, a lot of question marks, Sean, about the decision to relieve Ralph Hasenhüttl of his duties a good few months ago now. But do you think that has paid off at all? Have you seen anything different since that change, since Sayers got the job?
No, the results have pretty much been the same, honestly. Hence the reason why I'd say that they are where they are in the league. I think, for me personally, it was the wrong choice to get rid of him. I felt like he had a plan in place, hence the change of letting certain players go and the young guns come in. I think he had an idea of what way he wanted to go, how he wanted to use them, what senior pros he wanted to play with them that can teach them and help them improve and be able to hang in the Premier League. But I think it's been tough for them. I think if your home form is pretty much as bad as your away form, you're always really going to struggle in the Premier League. You need to have at least good home form. Not saying you have to win all of them, but you can't keep just losing games home and away.
2 wins in 15 at St Mary's in the Premier League is just not good enough, is it? And look, Crystal Palace next down there for them, Glenn. That is a huge match, isn't it? Because look, looking at the positive side of things, if they get a good result, a good win against Palace, it can do wonders for that dressing room and for the momentum going into May. Yeah,
it could. And it will be a massive positive for them. But I just look at the fixtures there and I'm starting to lose hope a little bit. I mean, they've got some big teams, like you say, Arsenal, Liverpool, Brighton fighting for Europe. It's like, it's looking like it's becoming a more and more difficult task as the weeks go by.
And look, James Ward-Prowse's experience, that coolness and that calmness, someone who knows that football club so well, he's going to have a huge role to play, isn't he, in these few months?
Yeah, his role is going to be massively important, but also very, very hard. There's only so much one player can do in respects of that role to do stuff like that. So I think for me, he has to focus on his game and lead on the pitch the way he has always done, and hopefully everybody follows after him.
7 defeats in their last 9 games at St Mary's for Southampton. It is looking pretty bleak, isn't it? As a reminder that they are 4 points from safety down the bottom of that Premier League table, which is made up now, that relegation zone of Nottingham Forest, Leicester and Southampton on 23 points, but just 7 separating all the way up to 13th place against West Ham. It was Manchester City who picked up the points, though, at St Mary's. A big 3 points for Pep Guardiola on the South Coast, and for that man, help from Erling Haaland. 29 and 30 for the season, and City 5 behind Arsenal. See you next time. Bye for now.